nearly remade my Dark Souls review from a couple of weeks back. I wasn't happy with it when I gave it a watch and spotted several glaring issues that other viewers either noticed and hated, or didn't notice and maybe I'm just being paranoid. In the end, I decided to unwind by looking at a game that came to us in October of 2018. I say that released year because I think it's important to note. For today, we talk about Nickelodeon Kart Racers, which looks like this. I grew up in the era of Nickelodeon, but aside from SpongeBob SquarePants and iCarly and the Fairly OddParents, I didn't really engage with most of the programming. I knew of their shows, Hey Arnold and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for example, Invader Zim and Rugrats, Dexter's Laboratory and Recess. At least I think all of these are shows from Nickelodeon. They could have been from other networks, I don't know, it's hard to tell. I probably should have just googled that before I wrote the script. My point was there was an impressive selection of shows of varying quality. Nickelodeon Kart Racers is a karting game, shockingly enough, that lets players pick from your favourite Nickelodeon characters. Provided, of course, that you like SpongeBob, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Hey Arnold, and the Rugrats, because these are the only shows that have their characters in the game. Also, here's fun, I just realised that during my first impressions or quick look video, whatever you want to call it, I kept calling Arnold from Hey Arnold, I kept calling him Arthur. That was a mistake. I apologise for anyone I offended with my ignorance. Anyway, aside from the Nickelodeon brand coat of paint, this game is just another karting game like the rest of them. The game it most reminds me of is Mario Kart 7, because you can customise your kart and you have bits in the air, water and land. I know Mario Kart 8 does that as well, but I've actually played 7 more, so I feel like that's a better reference point. Like any other karting game, you can acquire power-ups in the races to screw other players out of their positions, all of which have the aforementioned Nick coat of paint, which does nothing to hide the game's complete lack of originality. See, the problem with the game is, well, the first problem anyway, is that it has absolutely nothing new to offer. It really is just Mario Kart, but with Nickelodeon. I don't necessarily hate this sort of game design, sometimes I even enjoy the alternative, like how Little Big Planet Karting was just Mod Nation Racers, but Little Big Planet themed, though even that game had its own identity and things to offer. Nickelodeon Kart Racers just looks at the typical tropes of the genre and says, what if that but SpongeBob, or what if that but Rugrats? It really doesn't do justice to the subgenre. The game surprised me when I bought it. I saw it and thought to myself, hey, I don't remember playing this as a sprog, let's see if it holds up, because I honestly thought it was a port of an older game or a re-release or something. If it had been, I might have been kinder to it. You can forgive the awful feel that the karts have, and the lackluster visuals if the game was from over a decade ago. This game looks shocking for something released in 2018. That's why I mentioned the date earlier, because I thought it was important, and it is. Just look at some of this awful footage that I've put up here, and then try to convince yourself that this was a game made for the PS4 era. I'd expect this god-awful lack of quality in a Steam game, but then I've already talked on this channel about how the PS4 is becoming Steam 2.0. At least this was made by a real studio, though actually that seems more damning. A few months ago I had a mate around and we installed it for a quick go because we didn't know what else to do with ourselves. Then, 4 minutes and 34 seconds later, I timed it. We uninstalled it because we had only finite hours to live and this didn't seem worth our time. Kart controllers are a nightmare. The irony is most of them just go too bloody fast for the pitifully tight tracks that you need to race in. One race I got the boost at the start. You can do a little boost at the start if you press the accelerate button at 3 separate times, by the way, I should mention that now. Only to crash into a wall that I had no time to turn for. The power-ups seem to have a lot of duplicates. Though they look different, they function the same, which is obviously just to throw in more visual Nick references. What I found most weird was the lack of voice acting though. That's something that really, it rubbed me up the wrong way. Now it's not like there's a proper campaign mode or a plot or anything where you need voice acting, but characters don't even have any voiced lines. You just get a little box of text saying what they're saying, because whilst you're racing at high speeds, what you need to do is take a moment to read the bottom half of your screen. Would it really have been so hard to just get a couple of the voice actors from the show to do a few one takes, or just maybe even just rip audio from the shows a little bit? Come on, you're already not putting the effort in. We've got better karting games than this. We've had better than this for years now. I'm not saying Nickelodeon Kart Racers couldn't have worked. I'm saying that the game as it is pathetic. This is such a basic and unenjoyable racer that I regret spending my time and money on it. I think I rather would have just remade my Dark Souls remastered review. Oh, but kiddie game, I'm sure someone will cry. Oh, but game for kids, therefore no need to be good. Stick an iron rod somewhere where the sun doesn't shine. Kid games can be better than this. This does not excuse bad design. Mario Kart could be considered a kiddie game, but you know what? It has fun, life, challenge, creativity, voiced exclamations for some of its character roster. It has actual talent and creativity behind it. I know I said creativity already, but I ad-libbed that last bit rather than just sticking to the script, because that's clever. I feel confident in saying that no real effort or talent went into Nickelodeon Kart Racers. It looks and plays like an attempt to get onto that sweet video game market for the monies. Some effort went in, not to actual track design or originality of the power-ups. You've got the basic rocket, slippery hazard, items that target a player in first place. Not sure why, because you only ever get such an item when you're really far behind the pack, and it's just not useful to you then. And you know what's worse about Nickelodeon Kart Racers? It has 2 separate items that target a player in first place. For what reason do we need this? Sorry, I was supposed to be saying about the actual effort put in, not just complaining. You get the occasional track where you either need to stay on one side of the boys when you're floating in the slime, there's slime, we'll talk about that later, or where the last racer in the group is eliminated once every 12 seconds. Those were alright. It was a little interesting, even if the drive on the right side ones were easily winnable because the AI was often too dumb to follow it properly. So yeah, it was kind of interesting. Doesn't make the game good though, not by a long shot. You'd have a better time just watching the shows that the characters come from. I know this because after I finished the game, I watched SpongeBob SquarePants for a while. And then some Rugrats, and even some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Hey Arnold that I'd never been interested in. And you know what? I had a better time. Speaking of Hey Arnold, whilst I never watched his show as a kid, I mean I was aware of it, I just never got into watching it, I did play exclusively as him after a while in this game. See, all characters get this unique power-up. The Turtles get their weapons, which do something. I couldn't figure out what half of them did. I know one of them just throws ninja stars, but the others, they do things. Anyway, SpongeBob can throw view-obscuring jellyfish in front of other racers so they can't see where they're going. There's this green dinosaur thing that can shoot fire. I'm guessing he's a Godzilla parody. All of these are of varying usefulness, but Arnold gets his power where these pigeons will lift his cart into the air, make him invulnerable, and speed him over a good chunk of the track. You don't even need to be behind anyone to get it. More than once I'd acquired his power-up when I was in first place, which to me means the item assignment is absolutely screwed. Because of this, I spent half of most of the races I played as him miles ahead of the pack, even in the harder difficulty settings, which is ludicrous. Frankly. You can upgrade your carts as well, you collect coins as you race, and then you can unlock new cart items. That's nice, I suppose. But most of them made virtually zero difference. They can say you go faster or have better handling, but it reminds me of a conversation I had with Borderlands one time. You can't just tell me things are getting dangerous and the stakes are raised, Borderlands. You have to actually raise the stakes and make things dangerous. Just saying the thing doesn't make it true. The same idea here, you can't just tell me the cart is better. I need to see some actual improvement in how the vehicle behaves, and I just never did. Does that make sense to you, Nickelodeon Kart racers? No, I guess not. Also, half of the tracks are just recycled from earlier tracks. Usually it's just the same race, but backwards. There's like 1 or 2 tracks themed around each show, and then they're just recycled to hell, because why not? Why create more things when we could just reuse the other things? Wouldn't be so bad if we had more variety to work with initially, though, I suppose. Also, some of the tracks take place entirely in slime, which means your car controls even worse and is even less fun to drive, because what this dull racing game needed was less reason to play it. Oh right, the slime, I forgot to mention that properly until now. Let's have a little talk about the slime. So Nickelodeon had this thing with slime. I wish I could tell you more. I have no idea what it was about, even as a kid. Occasionally they just dump slime on people. I guess that was their staple. Anyway, the slime lying around racetracks, you could drive through it to fill up your slime tanks and get a boost. It's the closest thing to a unique mechanic as possible, though unique might be the wrong word. Mod Nation Racers had a similar thing going on, where you had a boost meter, but in that game you had to attack, drift, draft, and spin through the air, and all of this would fill up your boost, and also your boost meter could be used to shield from attacks, which was good, it was clever, it was interesting. It wasn't just drive over a square that fills you up, although those things did exist in the game, but they weren't the only thing. Nickelodeon Kart Racers is just drive through the slime, now you have slime to boost, and I'm like, yay, how unsatisfying. And in the races where your track is entirely covered in slime and you've got to boat, you're constantly building up your boost meter because of course you are, you're driving through slime. But the last thing you need in those races is your car to go too fast because you can't turn properly. You know what, that was the key word for the game actually, unsatisfying. Winning races, even when the AI put up some sort of fight, was never all that satisfying. What gets me is there is potential for a game like this to work, but it's so bereft of originality and content. The draw distance is dreadful. When you see the camera do that dramatic thing it likes to do in racing games where it shows off parts of the track at the start of the race, you see things a few feet away pop in and out like it was old school GTA San Andreas. The fact that the drifting mechanic is so basic doesn't help either. It doesn't matter how long you drift for, you'll always get the same amount of boost whether you drift for 1 second or 10. What happens when you win a Grand Prix, you ask? You get slime dumped on your racer, and then you go straight back to the menu. Nothing about this game feels rewarding, even the expert difficulty isn't that hard. If you've played other karting games before, you'll be fine. I only played on expert because I assumed I'd be fine. This was the game's chance to show me I was wrong and kick me down, so I had to start easy like a little bitch. But it didn't do that. I was fine. I didn't win every race, but you kinda don't need to. Like, you come first once or twice and you're usually set. Even before I had any upgrades or clues to what I was doing, I was winning Grand Prix with ease. Is there anything else nice I could say? I feel like I'm being overly mean here. The tracks at least try to look like locales from their shows, even if the graphics are shit. Some level of effort has been made here, so there's that. My favourite track was the first one set in Bikini Bottom. Even then it was just alright. The rest of the tracks are at best just okay, but at worst they're bloody awful. I liked some of the music here and there, another one of those best of a bad situations for, oh, who am I kidding? Nickelodeon Kart Racers is one of the lousiest karting games I've ever seen. The sequel looks a bit better, but last I checked it was 30 quid, and after this mess I don't think I want to spend the money on something like that. Even if it does mean that I'll now go without ever playing as Invader Zim or Lincoln Loud. Nickelodeon Kart Racers, which again I need to point out looks like this, came out in 2018. This was a release that someone thought was up to snuff. I believe it was a fan game before I believe it was made by a proper studio. I looked up the developers, they don't have a huge selection of games under their belt, and the ones they did have didn't look very good, so I guess this is just the quality they're happy with. Don't buy this game, it's not even fun as a nostalgia romp. It's just an embarrassment that looks and plays like a video game. I'm almost insulted by it, and I don't even care that much, believe it or not. How does that happen? I close now wishing I just did the Dark Souls thing I wanted to do, and I'm convinced that we'll never have a lasting competitor to Mario Kart. Maybe the Sonic racing games, but let's be honest, no one cares about those, and they hardly light the world on fire. They're decent, but they're not really contests. Sonic's never been contest for Mario, not really. Nickelodeon Kart Racers, you are a waste of effort, space, money, and time. Now kindly leave my PS5 so I can do something else. I was going to do Sekiro for next week, but then I saw the Activision logo on the startup screen, so that's not happening. Christ, I need to think of a proper topic for next week now. I have to put some work in. Thanks for watching, be sure to check out the other content available on the channel, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. You can also support the channel on Patreon from as little as £1 a month. Check out the link in the description. Thanks in advance, and we'll see you next time.